Here we have the Siegel production of Meet the Neighbors, the first encounter between General James Oglethorpe and the Yamacraw Creek leader Tomochichi, made possible by the quick-witted translator Mary Musgrove. It leads to a number of events, including revolution. Take it away.
Once upon a time. Well, no, this is the true story, so it should have a different beginning. In 1733, James Oglethorpe settled the colony of Georgia. Why? Well, James Oglethorpe was a smart person.
I was a general in the army and a member of the English Parliament.
He also had a friend who went to jail, got sick there, and died. That's important. James believed that no one else in England should lose a friend because he couldn't get out of jail. He decided to find a place people could go to have a place to live and a way to make money. At that time, the King of England owned the place we now call Georgia. Nobody from England had moved there yet. James Oglethorpe decided to start a colony there. What's a colony? Good question. There aren't a lot of them anymore, but back in 1733, there were plenty. Here's how it worked. Powerful countries in Europe, England, France, Holland, and Spain sent explorers to places far away and claimed any land they found. A king would say, "We own it now. It's ours, our empire." This is how we get the word imperialism. That describes a system that lets a king send explorers to another land far away and take it. We move in.
Not me, of course. I stay in the royal palace.
The places these immigrants live is a colony. The people who do move there are called colonists.
Which are all of us.
That's us. Colonists leave the country and go to another place far away. It's owned by the country. It's controlled by their country, but it isn't like home.
Why do colonists decide to do that? Usually it's because we can find something to grow or produce in the colony and send it back home for money. That's trade. We make it, you buy it.
There were already 12 English colonies in the New World when James Oglethorpe decided that England needed another one. Can you name some? They're all states now. New York, New Jersey, they were colonies.
We named these colonies after our homes back in England. Places named York and Jersey. We got homesick sometimes.
Any others?
Here's a map. It was printed in 1725.
Massachusetts, Rhode Island, not an island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware. You can see why these were called the middle colonies. Then Virginia and, one big colony called Carolina. It got cut in half later. And then there's a gap. And then there is Florida.
That's not an English colony, that's a Spanish colony.
And that is where James Oglethorpe decided to put a colony, in that space, right between Carolina and Florida. Thank you for holding the map. Can you give it to the general?
I had some very good reasons for establishing a new colony there.
Number 1, a colony right there would mean that South Carolina would be protected from Spanish soldiers heading north.
Number 1 reason, defense.
Number 2, it was pretty empty of English settlers south of Charleston, South Carolina. So there would be room for people to move there if they were poor and needed a farm and a house. They could build one there.
Number 2 reason, charity. I had a good heart.
So James Oglethorpe went to ask the owner of the English land in the New World for permission to start a colony. James asked the King of England. The king owned what would be Georgia.
King, may I have a colony?
Why would you want to do that?
James explained that if English people were living south of South Carolina, it would be good for the other colonies who already have.
Those Spanish troops in Florida are pretty tough.
More reasons.
What else?
We could find a place for all these poor people in London to go live.
Clear.
Oh, clear all the poor people off the streets of London? Good idea.
One more reason.
People living in their new colony could grow things they could ship to England and sell. And with the money they made, they could buy things that people made here in England. That would make the English merchants very happy.
You've got a point there.
And the best idea of all.
What?
I can name the colony after you.
Kinga.
No, Georgia.
Okay.
Okay, you can have a colony.
So that's how I got the colony.
First, it was good for defense. Secondly, it was established as a charity. And third, colonists could provide raw materials to ship to England and make money for the merchants at home. Also, colonists would have to buy what they needed from England. It was a win-win situation.
So now let's talk about those colonists.
Who is going with James Oglethorpe on the good ship Anne?
There's Noble Jones. He's a surveyor. Good. You should have a surveyor when you're moving to a place with no roads.
I can go grapes, and all of the experts said they will grow in Georgia.
You need someone who can speak silk. Spin silk. Those experts said silkworms will grow there too.
Is there a blacksmith in the house? I make things out of iron, like nails and plows.
What about the carpenter? If you want to build anything, you might want to take me to this Georgia place.
Okay, load up the ship. Everybody happy to be here? We're going to a city named Savannah. You're going to build it.
What?
It's a wilderness. It's all trees. You have to cut them down and make houses out of them. We only have enough food for a year or so let's go.
They sailed across the Atlantic for weeks and weeks. They got off the boat, looked around, and decided where to pitch their tents. Then they heard something. Now here's a thought. Was Georgia completely empty when James and the colonists arrived?
Yes, no, maybe
Who was living there in the colonies when the settlers arrived?
Native Americans and Indians.
Let's be specific. How do you pronounce it?
Muskogee.
Muskogee Creek Indians were living on the bluff above the river at the place we now call Savannah. Let's get some Creeks here to help us tell everybody's side of the story. Okay.
Oh, we're getting some creeks.
Wait.
What am I
Well,
put-
they never
You're putting that on.
changed.
Oh, it's okay. You did this.
Wait, where are we? I
So-
lost track.
You are.
Do I have to change anything?
No, where are we? In
Yes. You going to this page, and you're going to have no skirt and no thing right here. This is your option. Here. So right here, but that's what you're wearing. Okay.
Keep on here, maybe?
Right here. Where's yours? Right here.
We don't have to
Okay,
get it
you're
out.
good. That's fine. That's fine. That's good. Okay. Okay, right here. Okay.
There.
James needed to ask Tomochichi for permission to live on the land that Tomochichi claimed for her tribe.
Can we move in?
Huh? Hannah?
Uh-oh, we have a problem. James, can you speak Muskogee Creek? Didn't think so. Tomochichi, can you speak English? Don't think so. What can we do?
Sign language.
Sign language, draw pictures, give up and go home?
I have an idea. Do any of you speak two languages?
I do. I speak Creek Creek in English. Can I help?
Mary Musgrove was an important person in Georgia history. The first thing she did was to help General Oglethorpe communicate with Tomochichi.
Please tell him that I have a boatload of colonists who are tired and hungry. We want to pitch our tents here and start a colony called Georgia in honor of our noble king, the owner of this land.
He says he wants to move in. This could be the beginning of something big. They've got cool stuff.
Let's ask the tribe. What do you think?
There are a lot of us, so it shouldn't be a problem. Or there are a lot more of us, so that it shouldn't be a problem. Don't let them go hunting all the deer. We need them.
Okay, so as long as they behave themselves.
You may settle your people along the rivers as far north as the waters of the river taste of salt from the ocean, but no farther.
Okay.
The colonists started to build their houses on the high bluff above the Savannah River and began to start their new lives in the colony of Georgia. Not everything went as planned.
My cell phones died!
This is hard work.
Does anyone have a kettle? Does anyone have a kettle I could borrow? I don't have 3 months to wait for one from England.
James Oglethorpe sent back reports from Georgia to his friends in England, the trustees who had sent money and supplies.
Everything is fine.
Thumbs down. Don't think so. What do you think, Caroline?
But other things worked out just like he had said. When Spanish soldiers attacked the colony, the English fought back at the Battle of the Bloody Marsh. James Oglethorpe had some really good ideas about how the colony should work. He said,
No slaves in this colony. If my colonists can own slaves, they won't work hard. I don't want this place full of big plantations. And no alcohol. And no lawyers in this colony.
"Oh, lawyers?"
Everybody can plead their own case in court.
So what happened next? Well, people kept showing up. People from Scotland who went to live in Darien. German Salzburgers who made a town called Ebenezer. A whole boatload of Sephardic Jewish families who had with them something the colony really needed, a doctor. After a while, James Oglethorpe went back to England for good. But it's okay, he married a very rich lady and got a big house. When Oglethorpe left, though, there were some changes. People in Georgia could now own slaves, for one thing. Tomochichi remained a great friend of the English settlers. When he died, he got a big monument in Savannah that you can still see today. Mary Musgrove ended up with her own island. It was a reward and recognition of her help that she gave to Oglethorpe and Tomochichi. And all of those colonists kept clearing the forest and planting crops and making new homes here in Georgia. Pretty soon, they realized that they didn't need to get everything from England.
We can grow our own food.
We can make our own clothes.
Maybe we can make our own laws. Just saying.
If they could make their own government, they could be independent, except for one thing. They were still colonists, and they were still part of the English Empire. There was even a royal governor living in Savannah telling everyone what to do.
You have to pay taxes on paper, playing cards, and newspapers now. You get a little bitty stamp to put on them. It's called the Stamp Act, and it's a law.
It says in the newspaper that they do not pay the taxes in Massachusetts.
Yep. Perfect.
The people there did not want to pay a tax on tea, so they dumped The people there didn't want to pay a tax on the tea, so they dumped it into the harbor.
Horrors. Don't listen to him.
Everybody can come to my tavern and we'll decide what to do next.
I'm going home. You have your little party without me.
All the people of Georgia elected 3 men to go to Philadelphia and talk about these taxes at the Continental Congress. And here they are. First, we have Dr. Lyman Hall, a graduate of Yale College. Dr. Hall is a triple threat. He's a preacher and a medical doctor and a school teacher. Can we give a hand to Dr. Lyman? Next up is George Walton. Born in Virginia, George Walton was a carpenter, a soldier, and for a very short time, the governor of Georgia. Give it up for George Walton. Last but not least, we have Button Gwinnett, the only one of the 3 born in England. Button Gwinnett got his unusual name from his mother. It was her last name before she married Mr. Gwinnett. After immigrating to the colonies, he became a very wealthy planter. He is the only governor of Georgia to die in a duel, and his autograph is worth a small fortune now. Holding a copy of a document he signed with that famous autograph, let's welcome Button Gwinnett. What's on the paper, Button?
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The 3 guys from Georgia signed that document in 1776.
That document meant that the colonies were now states. They were no longer part of the British Empire, so no more imperialism. They didn't have to do what the king told them to. They didn't have to do what the royal governor said to do.
We were free to trade with any country we wanted to trade with. We were free to make treaties with the Native Americans. We were free to invent basketball and smartphones and the light bulb.
You're getting ahead of yourself. First, we have to read your...
Hold on. First, we have to cut off. Well, and you just say.
And who are you?
The only woman who will ever get the country named county named after her in Georgia. And right now, there are British redcoats in my backyard. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go take care of them. When we've driven them out of Georgia and all the way to Yorktown, then you can get back to your story.
Now?
They're eating up my family's dinner, so let's go.
The end. And Caroline, you were Nancy Hart. So Hart County is the only county named after a woman.
You
So the end. Y'all take a bow. Ready? Awesome. Good job, guys.
There should have been an ending on it that said, like,